ready for part 2 of the Mojo Conference? Great, great, great. Well, let's have another great panel discussion with Janneke. I'd like to invite you again. You may be seated. Yeah, Janneke, Jeanette Abrahamsen, yes, your first panel talk today. Thank you. And Harmke, yes, we know you, Harmke. Glad to have you back. Thank you. Thank you. So what are we going to talk about? Something that actually came up in the first part already. Truth or dare, misinformation regulation and market power. We've talked about fake news a few times, also in the different workshops. So hopefully we get to talk about it now also. What is the first thesis? How to retain your integrity as a mobile journalist. Well, that is quite a topic, because I know that in one workshop it was really about how do we know that your stories are really truthful, and what are your sources, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, how do you retain your integrity, and how do people know that it's true? Does anyone have to say something about that? Yeah, Jeanette, yeah.
This is a tip for mobile journalists, but just in general, journalists should start being more transparent. And I think in that regard, mobile journalists are doing a really good job, because while we're doing the stories, we're out there like Instagramming and we're going live, and you see the entire process of the reporting before you see the finished product, which is pretty new. I mean, before it's like you would get the newspaper or the TV newscast, and it would be a completed project, and you wouldn't necessarily be let in on how it was actually created. Yeah, and I think that transparency really helps people know the entire process. It helps them be able to trust that what you're saying is something that they can engage in and maybe help you too. I think that's part of the other part that's helpful as a mobile journalist. You can engage with your audience a lot more. You can ask them questions. They can be a part of the reporting process, which I think the more transparency in the entire, like before you even get to the actual product, the better.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but actually what you're saying is the making of, that is very transparent, that is very pure, because we all get to see how you're actually making your news or your story. I think the questions were more about how do we know what you're sharing with us is true, so more the content. So how do you know that that is like really truthful?
I think just watching that, watching the entire process, I think does help. But also, we should, as journalists, do a better job of teaching our audience how to be more media literate and media savvy. So that's something that I think we're starting to talk a lot about. My university just launched a media literacy class, and I think more places are starting to put more focus on that. So not just teaching your audience about the news, but also teaching them about
how to look.
Yeah, how to be skeptical. I think that's always like any kind of journalism is like teaching you how to be skeptical, but just verifying everything and showing them that process, I think is just going to help. And it's going to become more common as we all use spectacles and everything else that you see, like kind of the entire process. I think that will help a lot.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Would you like to add something?
Well, I think your integrity is no different than being a traditional journalist. Integrity is important all the time. But in mobile journalism, it helps. I agree. When I do a video, I also shoot on stories. So today also I report on stories on what I'm doing, so people can see what I'm doing. And
what do you mean? I'm sorry, you say you report on your own story?
Yeah, there are different types of video content at the moment. The on the roads, fast, authentic stories, vertical.
Yeah.
And then you also have in a series, YouTube or for your website content, Facebook maybe, the timeline. And there's also what I call slow and pro, professional shot. Maybe the corporate movie or for the broadcasting company or something. So that there are different types of video content, but they all have one thing alike, and that's your integrity. So when you start telling things that are not right or not correct, there's always someone who can control it. When I was working at the national, at the NOS, we used to say we are in a, I don't know the English word, physicom, in a fish
In a fishbowl. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So everybody can see what you're doing, because there's always someone in this country who has more knowledge of this story than you do. So you have to be correct. Check, 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 double check. It's old-fashioned, but still
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Janneke?
Yeah, I've nothing to add.
Okay, yeah. But the thing is, with this thesis, I was actually thinking that like mobile journalism or mobile storytelling is maybe more truthful because you don't have time to do all the editing and stuff like that. That's actually what I thought.
Well, that's in line what you're telling, actually.
Yeah, I think a lot of us do a lot of live streaming, whereas on traditional broadcasts, you don't see that part of it. I think also part of the social media component is that we have like location services and geotagging and like kind of what Yusuf was saying earlier, like people around you are also now, if they're not journalists, they might be telling stories on their phones, which can also help verify all of these things. So
Yeah.
I think it's exciting and it's easier for us probably to start working our way into just being more aware of transparency than some of the traditional outlets that are, it's going to be harder to change their workflow. So this is like embedded in our,
Yeah.
everything we are, like it's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if something happens, like a bomb will go off somewhere,
Yeah.
most of the time it's not just one person making the videos, it's a lot of people filming it. And that's how you see the bigger picture instead of just one camera trying to tell it all.
Yeah, yeah. More mobile phones.
More eyes.
Yeah, more eyes.
Yes.
More stories, more angles.
But
Yeah.
what will be more interesting, because it's still one person's perspective. Even with the mobile phone. And what's interesting is 360, because then you can make your own story. You can look everywhere, like the inauguration of Trump.
Yeah.
I heard this reporter was reporting with 360 camera.
Okay.
And after that, Trump said, no, there were a lot more people. You can look around and see, no, there were not.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Yeah.
that's more interesting, more angles, more perspectives.
Exactly.
I love that you said that about 360. I don't know how many here are shooting 360?
How many people are shooting
shooting?
360 at the moment?
No? Oh my gosh, start shooting it. It's, if you ever have like 360 photo shoots or interviews or videos, it's so hard to hide anything.
Yes, you can
like
hide.
it's horrible. It's
Yes.
so difficult
Yeah.
to hide anything from there.
Yeah, you can't.
It's I love 360 for
So
that.
it's
I
more
think it's
honest?
really great.
You think it's more
Yes.
honest?
Yeah, that's a great
Yes.
point. that you
Because
just-
then you have all angles.
Yes.
Then you have
And
all
the
angles.
viewer can choose his own angle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her own angle.
Exactly.
That's a great
like,
point.
Like a VR, exactly. Are there people having a question about this thesis or about what the guests have said or the responses? No? No questions? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to try it again. This is really my talent here. Woo! Ooh.
Hi. Yes.
Yes, it's working.
Hey.
I had a question. What you said at one point about how traditional media has more time to edit stories and
Yeah.
therefore could be less credible, but then doesn't.
Could be.
Yes, and that of course that's true that it could be very one-sided, but then doesn't Mojo journalism therefore then not have the time to investigate their sources more? Because
Exactly.
there's always more sides to one story. So if you have interviewed one person,
Yeah.
do you have the time to also interview the people that were also involved?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think traditional media does have more time to do so.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So it's like integrity. It's like you're showing the whole process. You're very fast with bringing the news. So people know that you're very truthful in how you bring it. But when it comes to the news itself, are you maybe bringing it too soon? Shouldn't you just have like more people tell the stories, like more fact checking maybe? So how do you know a mobile journalism isn't truthful when it comes to the content?
And I don't think so, because you won't bring the news unless you're certain. Wait until you're certain. That's so important of being a journalist.
Yeah.
So even
But do you understand that that is like a lot of people think about mobile journalism that people don't wait
I disagree.
because it is very fast.
But it's
I
a difference.
disagree.
It's a difference between just showing what happens and also make conclusions. So
Yeah,
you
you're
can
right.
choose just give the facts or also draw conclusions. If you don't have any conclusions and you just show the facts, how should it ever can go wrong?
Yeah, you're actually saying when you're showing the footage,
Yes.
and you see the video itself, then actually maybe you don't even have to say something because people can see and watch themselves and see it with their own eyes.
It's a difference between, you can say something about what you're showing, but you have to be very clear about what you think you're seeing and what you're actually seeing, and just share only what you're 100% certain that is true.
Yeah,
Just only show the facts.
yeah. Thank you.
And
It
I
looks
think
like you.
I
Yeah.
think too, like something for those of you who might actually be going into journalism, and I tell my students this all the time, that regardless of what platform you're working on, your bosses generally, or if you're working in news, are going to push you to publish faster. And it's your responsibility as the journalist or reporter or producer to stand up for yourself when you know you need to. So I've had to do that many times in newsrooms where it's breaking news, get it on air quick. And I can't count how many times I had to be like, we need to check this first. And that's everybody, whether it's mobile journalists or TV or reporters, because even if you're doing newspaper, you're digital first, usually you're tweeting out before you print the paper. So I would encourage all of you to not be intimidated when you go into the workforce. And if you ever feel like I don't have enough certainty that this is accurate, tell your boss that, and you might get in trouble, but at least then you feel like you have your own integrity in that regard. So I think it's really important that we don't just say, well, my boss told me to do it. Like, no, I need to check this first, and I've had to do that a lot of times. I've never gotten fired over it because I was always in the right. You're always, no, I want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of our publication. and the information.
Funny what you're saying. For me, it was the other way around. When I was in my 20s, the chief editor used to say, "Are you sure? Did you check? Did you check
Oh,
that?
that's
Did you check?"
incredible. Good for
Yes,
you.
and, oh no! I went back to my desk and calling again.
Because you wanted to publish
I had
it.
to
You
be
wanted-
sure. I have
yeah,
to be sure.
yeah, yeah.
Good boss.
Yes, good. A lot of bosses like that in the Netherlands.
But also with the whole integrity thing, I also think like with mobile journalism, it's a little bit more personal. So to me, it seems like a lot of the stories are because it's with your own phone, it's you shooting it, and it's so often also something that really interests you as the one shooting it, that is also more personal, and that maybe the viewers know that you are the one showing that, and that is already okay, that it's already a little bit subjective and not objective. And that's actually also a way of looking at mobile journalism. Is that true?
Well, I think now
To know that it's already a little bit more personal in many ways.
Yeah, you have to maintain your own personal integrity, not just like hide behind your organizations, because you are your own brand. You have your own accounts, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And so people do look to you in that regard to say like, can I trust you? Not just your organization, but like you as the storyteller. And so that's great. If you continue to like show everybody what you're about, then you will get people who will trust you because they see that you've done it the right way time and time again. But that can also be dangerous sometimes depending on who the person is. So I think just being super transparent is always
And I hear what you're saying. You're saying actually if people get to know you and they get to know you as somebody who is very truthful, then they will know that they can trust the news. But what I actually meant was with the whole sharing stories and also the examples that I saw today, it was also often somebody sharing their own lives, you know.
Oh, like user generated.
And then because it's very personal, then you also already know that is that person's experience, and that's the way that person looks at it. And so you learn to look at the story itself in a different way, not like we have like the news, like the mainstream news, like we don't think about who made it. We don't think about, oh, somebody else is looking at that in a certain way. We just think that is the news. But if we see it made by somebody, we think that person made it, and we already take that in as part of the information that we need to know.
I think people should also be skeptical, though, of selfie journalism, the same way that they're skeptical of like any other news. So, like, I know that Naima was talking about this earlier, but I think it's important to understand that specifically when a journalist publishes selfie journalism, like what we do at #OurStories, we really do verify who they are and look through it. So even if it's somebody doing a selfie video, you might think, oh, well, let's just believe them. We make sure to look through all of their accounts, contact them, and do all of the journalistic like background so that we know that this person is who they say they are. Because at the end of the day, it's, if we're wrong,
Exactly.
then I can't be like,
you
oh,
have to
they
really
lied.
curate it. Yeah. You have to really be sure. Yeah.
Have you ever, do you have an example, or did it ever go wrong, or?
If what?
Yeah. Did it ever go wrong
Did it
that you
ever go
thought
wrong
that this is
that
okay?
you were like investigate if it's a true person, etc., etc., if it's a true story, and you find out, oh, this is not really.
I don't think I do. I have a lot of examples where I'm like, I don't know, this seems like kind of fishy. And I have had times where I'm like, I don't feel confident just moving forward. And usually if we try and we can't figure it out, if we're not confident, we just
Don't do it.
we don't move forward with it if it's not something we can verify. Yeah, so one of the things that we're talking about right now is, I don't know if you guys saw this young woman who made the news last week. She had published a post that she said...
Cut her hair?
What's that?
With their hair cut? That the hair was cut?
No, this was a girl that was in a bathing suit. She
Okay.
was wearing a bathing suit. She had applied for an internship, and the company that apparently, she says, she did an interview with or tried to apply for, had taken her bikini or bathing suit photo from her social media and then published it on their actual Instagram. I think it was an Instagram story, and they put a caption like, warning for any of you that are, trying to work here. This isn't, we don't want models. We just want professional people, and this is not a good way to get a job. And it was something that she had just happened to post on one of the social media platforms.
Yeah.
But so then what happened is that we're like, oh, this is such a good story we should look into, because are there, is it we're shaming women? Is it a double standard? And so we started looking into it. I still don't have the answer, by the way. We're still looking into it. But one of the students who's working with me saw that the company had all of a sudden gone dark. They'd went private on all their platforms. It looked like their website was down. So I have to actually look into it afterwards when we're done today and see what's going on. Because I was like, wait, hold on. That just seems really strange to me.
Yeah.
So anytime you just your gut instinct says, something doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Then keep digging and don't move forward until you can verify.
Exactly. You're leaving us with a good cliffhanger now, actually, because now we want to
Stay
know what
tuned.
story is. Yeah.
Because we want to ask that company for their, you don't just want to air her side of the story. That's
No.
part of verifying and being transparent and having integrity, is also reaching out to the company and saying, did this, what's your response? Did this happen?
Yeah.
And right now we haven't been able to get a hold of them yet, but.
I understand, because
We'll
you always
see.
have to check, with them. Let me see. You want to say something, Yusuf?
Yeah, a quick one. I've been trying to hold my tongue for ages, but there's a few things that I really we need to address. There's no definition here of what the fuck mobile journalism is, and because of that, we're all really confused. We're confusing two things here. We're confusing formats with technology. We're criticizing formats for being superficial or clickbaity or fast. That's very different from a technology. I filmed mobile journalism videos that have taken me 3 months and are documentaries. Those are slow and thought out. You can do the shoot that we did outside the studio here, 4 cameras. For all intent and purposes, it's a conventional television-style shoot, and it just happens to be using mobile phones.
I understand what you're
We
saying.
can't confuse the
We can't
technology
exactly.
with the formats, because there are many traditional media houses, but I don't agree with their formats or their editorial, right? Fox News is traditional media. Does that mean they are legitimate media? I'm not sure. Breitbart, the right-wing title, is traditional media. But does that mean they're authentic? Not necessarily. And in the same respect, there's many new media startups that are massively compromised. But we're making a huge error here in terms of our discussions of confusing formats with technologies. They're two very different things.
But and thank you for clarifying that, because that's actually the danger of us thinking that it's all the same format, but it isn't. It's not. Thank you. People having a question about that. Everybody's like, ooh, Yusuf have spoken. We go to the next thesis. Governmental regulations or shift to closed networks or community groups. So what I understand from this thesis is that we should choose. Is it that we have to choose for the regulations that are through the government, or do we choose our own networks that we think we could trust and that we are feel related to?
Can explain it in what area, in what...
When it comes to integrity, to what to believe, to where do you stand, to what is, where, how do I know if it's true? Do I look for the, like, let's say, like the mainstream media? Do we look for that? Or do we look for our own communities to find out they are telling the stories that I believe and I feel related to those stories, and that's what I will go for.
Probably depend on which country you live in.
Yeah, very much
also,
so. Yeah.
yes.
In the Netherlands, it will be difficult. In Bangladesh, where I was, these women, they can't trust their government.
No.
So they have to trust each other.
Yeah.
They say we are on our own.
Yeah.
So they have to. There's a lot of misinformation in the camp, like the video showed.
Yeah.
So a lot of rumors. People are there's panicking in the camp because they think they have to be forced to go back to Myanmar, which is not the case because the government isn't doing it. But there are a lot of rumors going on. But the government is not communicating as well either. So
You would say in those
in
communities,
those countries,
you should
community groups can work very well. But in the Netherlands, I would say no governmental regulations, please. And closed and community groups are okay, but please let's keep an open mind and not only in your own bubble.
Yeah.
So none of these
None of these.
in the Netherlands.
Yes.
And what none of these would mean? What would it be then?
Like the combination of journalism,
Yeah.
mobile or traditional, but at least from a newsroom, which maybe it's even a mobile newsroom, I don't care. But the journalistic way of working, that's very important for our own information. Because when I came back from Bangladesh, I realized again, you know that, but we are so lucky to live in a country where we can believe the information from our public and even commercial broadcasters. So that's not a problem in this country. But I have more problems with closed networks or community groups when they are just about telling them how great they are and to sell themselves. Like you have a closed community that works very well because everybody's sharing knowledge in your community.
You mean on Facebook or
On
you
Facebook or
my
LinkedIn
own
also?
platform?
Can you
Yeah.
tell a little bit more about that?
Well, I have a close community at Facebook, and everybody can ask questions about how you can be more visible as an expert in the media. But also other questions. They can have all sorts of questions, but they all have to do something with marketing or publicity or visibility in a professional way.
Yeah, but are you also like keeping an eye on each other, that everything is...
And they can help each other out, so they can question each other and also be critical on each other. Yes.
And how does that happen? How do you see that happening?
Well,
if we look at the fake news or like checking if news is really completely truthful, if somebody has really checked everything, has done their research.
Before they can post something in the group, I have to agree that it can be posted. So if I see something, you know it when you feel like, oh, I'm not sure. And then I'm not agreeing to that it can be in the group.
So what makes you able to do that? What makes you able to curate? Yeah. It is a dangerous question, maybe, but what makes you able to curate?
She's the boss.
I'm the boss. Yes, I'm the boss.
She's the government.
Yes, well, I have group rules. And
Sorry?
I have group rules.
So you have your own governmental regulations for your own group, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, in a way.
Actually, yes.
Well, what I like about your group, it's maybe easy for me to tell, that you do regulate, but you regulate in a way that people can do their commercial to share the come at my business because I'm selling the best advice or something. You won't post that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So it has to be something that's worthy for the group. Valuable for the group.
Yeah.
So some knowledge or some tips or
Experience sharing,
but not selling yourself.
Yeah, truthful content share. Yeah, exactly.
When they say it's the
Other than it's just
future,
sales.
closed networks online, on WhatsApp, on Snapchat, on Facebook, that's the future of social media.
Yeah.
But then you have to do it in the right way, also the journalistic perspective.
Yeah, but how is your look on social media? Should there be like more regulations about like, because there was like a lot of negative feedback on Facebook, that there was a lot on Facebook that maybe wasn't true, and that Facebook should do something about it. How is your look on that? What's your look on that?
Will you?
My perspective?
Yeah.
Oh, I think specifically coming from America, we do have a big problem with people living in their own echo chambers. And the fear is that if you have an entire community that's very strongly tied to one belief, it's a lot easier to manipulate them and share fake news, because people tend to share fake news when it strongly agrees with their ideology. So if somebody is, super anti-Trump, and then there's a post that says, oh, Trump did this horrible thing, you're like, yeah, that's right, and you share it without necessarily even opening it or reading it. That's how a lot of the fake news can spread.
A lot of people don't read the article; they just
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the dangers with the closed groups is that it can foster this also closed-mindedness, and it can be harder to like dispel things because you don't have the diverse voices in there to check one another. So that's one of the hard things. I think some of the good things about those, like there are groups like for sex assault survivors, and they can speak openly about things that they've experienced, but it's a private group. So they feel like they could be open and connect, but they don't feel like they're sharing things that they wouldn't want to put on their own Facebook page, for example. So I think there's good and bad, but specifically as it relates to like fact checking and fake news, we have a problem with that for sure right now. And that's the debate in America specifically. How do you govern racism? How do you govern people who promote inequality? Is that illegal to spread hate? I mean, I think everyone has very strong opinions about it on either side, but that's for sure one of the biggest dangers of that.
Exactly. Somebody wants to add to this or have a question maybe? No? Okay. Wow. Then we can go to the next thesis. Fake news is of all ages, so what is the big deal? Who agrees with this? Who agrees with this, actually?
I agree with the first part, not with the second.
Fake news is of all ages. Exactly. I understand what you're saying. So, fake news is of all ages. Who agrees with that? Fake news is of all ages. I see one hand. More people, yeah. Fake news is of all ages. A lot of people agree with that. What is the big deal? Yeah, I guess it is a big deal always, yeah. Somebody has to say something about it.
Well, I think we all agree, but fake news is of all ages, but that's why journalism is so important. So, of course it's a big deal.
But do you understand that now with the whole mobile storytelling, that it's more that people think like, that people now look at it more differently, because with the mobile storytelling, you have like the real story fast. That's what people think. And it makes you look at mainstream media in a different way. And that now people are more aware of fake news, maybe also thanks to mobile storytelling. And thanks to Trump, yeah. You think mobile storytelling has done its part in showing how much fake news is there? No.
I think every journalist is. I think CNN is doing very well at the moment because of the fake news of Trump. Now journalism is everybody knows how important it is.
Yeah.
How important it is to be true and to check your facts.
Yeah.
So we journalists can be happy with Trump because now everybody knows how important it is. I'm curious what you think. Yes, Mr.
Oh yeah. Yes. Where is the mic?
Where's the box?
Yeah. Can you throw it up a few rows?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Careful.
That's more. Yeah, it's better.
Just about the first part. Fake news is of all ages.
A little bit closer, please.
Yeah, closer?
Yeah.
Fake news is of all ages. That's a fact. There are real examples of fake news in, let's say, history of 100 years ago. In the First World War, there was huge fake news about the losses and the wins of the Allied troops.
Yeah.
So it's a fact that it's of all ages. The only thing now is, and I think it's right that you're discussing it, it's that with the social media and the use of social media, the whole process has exploded. Um, um, for example, it's much easier for all citizens, but also for presidents, to spread fake news all over the world every second of a day. And that's the new thing, and that's something not only journalists, but all citizens of this world have to tackle, have to do their thing on it.
But what you're saying, like for all presidents can share it all day, a lot of fake news. That's exactly what I meant. Like if it's like that easy, we all have like the phone. So do you understand that now with the mobile phone, that people think that maybe there is more fake news?
Yes, but we have to be, I think,
A little bit
we have,
closer.
we have to be cautious with blaming or the mobile phone or making the mobile phone to, let's say, the great investigator, because the mobile phone is only an instrument, and an instrument that makes spreading fake news easier. And on the other hand, it makes it easier to, let's say, to find out that there is fake news.
Yeah, so it works both ways.
So it works both ways. So I think, but I'm very curious what your opinion is. I think it's a real big deal nowadays to have a citizens' war on fake news, but how to start it and now how shall we do it, and how can mobile phones help us?
Exactly. So how? Thank you.
Ah,
And it's here. It's here.
It's
Yeah,
under.
I'm gonna grab it. Maybe you can do something for yourself.
I guess while you look for that, I could.
I got it. But that's actually a good question. What can mobile phones do to make fake news go away? Actually, I think we talked about that a lot, but maybe you can add something to it.
Sure. Well, I think to answer your question, then I want to go back to what you said because I think you're right on. Now it's faster for us to fact check anywhere. We don't have to wait to go home to get to a computer. Like we can check it now on our phones. There's so many tools that I don't even have time to list them today, but I just tweeted a bunch of them out in case you guys haven't used some of these really awesome fact-checking tools that now you can check so quickly to see if a video is real, to see who actually owns a website that you're going to. There's so many ways to verify that without, journalists should, that's our goal, but regular people, you could all do this on your own because of cell phones. But I think what you were saying is totally right. The propaganda has always been, an instrument of any kind of corrupt government. And so, of course, now they're going to capitalize on how easy it is to do that. But I think another thing is, the shame is that there's more incentives maybe for fake news. So because of digital ad revenue, you see a lot of people who are just regular people who just needed the money, who may not even have any kind of political reason. They may not be in any position of power at all. And they post fake news because they know it's going to get lots of clicks.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. They get a lot of, that's their living.
Exactly. It's in the line of the whole influencers. It's a line of knowing that footage will bring money.
And that's the thing that you guys can do. So not just what you can do to check it, but just don't click on stuff, because that's all that's doing is fueling the fake stories that were only put there for the financial purpose. I'm not even talking about the political gains, but just people who are okay, I'm going to write this clickbaity headline, and just because I get my.
But is there tips you can give all of us how to detect fake news?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is any journalist should just be skeptical. So anytime anything sounds too good to be true, or anytime you're oh my gosh, check any of that feeling should always just set off red flags. You should always feel okay, why am I feeling so outraged by something, and just the headline alone, you should start feeling skeptical. But then going a little bit deeper and looking at like the date something was published, because often things are shared
On
now.
Facebook, sometimes you see like when you watch a date, you're like, oh, this is not recent.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And the headline might have written it to sound like it's related to something that's happening now, but
Yeah.
really it was a separate story that was published years ago. I also encourage you guys to just like Google the writer. So like look to see what the byline
Do people
is.
do that? When you see like certain news, do you Google like the writer, like you check the date? I see somebody doing that. Like, no. Yeah, you have something to say about that? Or? Oh, yeah. Here I go. Are you ready for this? It's like, woo.
Yay!
Yeah, thank you, thank
Went
you.
well.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
So exactly my question was like, yeah, do actually people go and search the author, search the source? And we're not journalists. So are we going to actually go and search and be sure that this is true or false? And the other thing is that, for example, the country I'm from, there's so many things going behind the scenes where actually if you're not in the industry, probably you don't even know that this is not true. And most of the people just, they trust what they see on newspaper, on TV, and they don't really realize that because it's everywhere, you think it's the truth. But otherwise, if you're in the industry, you maybe know that this is not the truth.
Yeah, so what is the question side to that? Because
What do you
you're
do?
stating
What
it.
should people do in that case where the whole country is just not more corrupted, let's say?
Yeah.
And how do you know
How do you
that
find
this-
your true story then? How do you find out that if it's fake or not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe there is other news channels where
Twitter.
they try to say the truth and they try to separate themselves from the government.
Yeah.
There really are. There are, like, for you guys who are like, I'm not a journalist, please do the work for me. Have you guys been to Snopes, for example? Like, there's websites that are completely dedicated to just fact-checking stories that are incorrect or correct that people are debating.
Snopes? You say Snopes?
Yeah, if you go
You
in
heard
and
of
check
that,
that out,
Snopes?
it's any story that's new that you are like wondering if it's true, they've probably already fact-checked it.
Okay.
So if you just go to their website, and it's fascinating to see all the stories out there, and it's very clear, like, this is true, this is
Snopes.com.
wrong. And sometimes it's like, well, this is like half true. And there's lots of websites like that that you could use, and you don't have to be a journalist. You don't have to spend a ton of time doing all the other tips that we could talk about that journalists should know. But just as a regular citizen, I think it's like your responsibility to like at least do like one step of checking, and that's an easy one. Like if you just look to see before you share, just one quick search,
Exactly.
that's going to really help to see if it's already been debunked.
And maybe if you start doing that, then you get better at it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get used to fact checking, maybe even.
But you
That
can
was-
you can't kill fake news. I think you can't kill it completely, and you always have a big audience that will never do fact checks. So they see something on Facebook and they think, "Oh my God, it's really," and they're going to talk about it
Yeah.
at the coffee machine, and people trust that person, and then they will talk about it, and they will talk about
So
it.
we need more storytellers bringing truthful stories.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. There was another question. Maybe can you throw it, please? Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
check,
you.
Check. Okay. That's a good sign. Okay. So basically, we're discussing much about the consumers, how they consume those fake news and such, and about as well the creators of it, how it gets created.
A
But
little bit
what I'm-
closer to your mouth, please.
What I'm a bit missing is what we discussed, the platforms, because the platforms are the ones that create the algorithm which pushes the media up for the how intense it is, the hashtags, etc. And I was wondering what your opinion is about those companies, the responsibilities with those algorithms, especially because you're as well creating content that fits the persona for pushing those algorithms up, because it's likable, it's heavy content, etc.
So your question is how do you know that how do these other platforms that have algorithms, how do they deal with the fact that they should not bring fake news?
Know how your company, which you are presenting today, how
Hashtag our stories, you
Yes,
mean?
hashtag
Ah,
our-
okay, yeah.
that's one.
Yeah.
What your opinion is on that matter, because you're all it's not positive, of course, in fake news, but it's part of your job as well. So that's contradicting. Can you?
That fake news is part of the job?
Well, working with the platforms that help to spread fake news.
Sorry?
Is that what you mean? Working with the platforms
You're
that help
working
to
with
spread fake
platforms
news?
that are pushing fake news or just heavy content
Yeah.
in general.
That's what you mean.
And
Yeah.
It is tough. We talk about it a lot. It's frustrating. We are also frustrated by the algorithms. I think if anyone is upset about the algorithms, it's to the journalists who are then having to constantly chase, a different tactic and technique as opposed to just focusing on the content. So in that area, I think we're all very frustrated with it as well. But I think we have to also be the watchdogs for the platforms, even if they're almost becoming our publishers. Like we publish our own content, but we've become very reliant on them. So like when Facebook was first around, I wouldn't have felt like they had this responsibility or this duty to be more responsible. But now it's morphed into this thing that, like Google, all of them, I mean, Twitter, Instagram, which is Facebook, Snapchat, I think they have a big responsibility to step up now and understand that they shouldn't be contributing to the spread of this and spend more time working on algorithms for that. Some of them do. I mean, Facebook has announced different types of relationships with fact-checking companies, but I think we need to do a lot more. One thing I'm actually very impressed with Snapchat, which was a surprise when I learned this a while ago when I started with #OurStories, is they actually have a process for the publishers that are a part of kind of like their inner circle, where they look through a lot of stuff and they have very strict guidelines for what we can and can't publish, specifically because it's like targeting a lot of younger audiences. But I was surprised because I didn't think that Snapchat would be so much different. Whereas Facebook, I mean, you can just publish a lot of stuff. They might flag it later and maybe take it down. But our relationship with Snapchat is interesting to me because they're a part of the editorial process too. And they might say, no, like this is too far or whatever. And I kind of like that they have that editorial because it's at least showing that they're paying attention to the content before it's published.
Yeah, they care about it, and yeah. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, but in context of, I'm
A little bit closer, please.
well. I'm interested in in the context of your own company, and because you're sort of creating as well content on that for the future of your company. That's negative, I guess, right?
I'm sorry, what is negative?
Which part is negative for the future of the company?
The fake news.
Because the algorithms, what you're basically saying is that the algorithms should be improved to avoid that kind of fake news. But the algorithms now work in such a way that they push just the heavy content.
Yeah.
That can be everything from Trump did this, or to a left guy did this. But in the same area, it pushes also content on which you make your content. You know,
Right.
the hashtags, the words you use, the SEO content. How do you see your company in that, surviving in that?
I'm sure it's going to change soon. So in the meantime, we're just going to like kind of move forward and try to pay attention. But a lot of news publishers, not just our company, they've really suffered. They had dramatic declines. Like you can see some of the graphs where after an algorithm change, the views on like legitimate news and storytelling outlets are just plummeting. And I think that's a shame because it makes it harder for people to get information. But it's part of this whole ecosystem that we're all kind of trying to figure out. And I don't think deciding not to be in the social media world is going to help. We still need to put our stories and our voice out there and just hope that they develop algorithms that are better at fact checking, are better at showing you content that they can verify is of value and true.
Is it something you can talk about with like Snapchat?
That would be a good Yusuf and Sumaya question.
I think what I would add to this discussion, I totally agree with you. The greatest risk to our business is that we're building our house on somebody else's land, right? And that can be taken away anytime. Our audience can be taken away, algorithms can change. I think the best position a media company can be in, and where we want to be, is where we have a direct relationship with our audience. I would love to have a one-to-one messenger with you directly. I want to be in your email inbox. I want to have no other company or organization that can compromise our relationship. And I want you to pay me directly. I don't want to rely on adverts. If you value our content, I want to... So I hope that answers your question. I agree with you. I think where we are all in the social media space, we are held ransom by algorithms to which we have no control. Having said that, as alluded to, certain platforms are behaving now a lot more like Netflix, or where they're kind of shaping up a discover section and they work with a select few publishers and they have very strict editorial guidelines about like we won't show people consuming drugs, we won't show nudity, and we're very aware of what these things are. So in that space, you're not as, you don't fluctuate as much as an algorithmic change. Having said that, let's appreciate one thing about algorithms. What is the core interest of these platforms? It's time spent, right? They want you to spend as much time as possible on Facebook, on Instagram, on their platform.
Yeah.
And in doing so, the algorithm is designed to optimize for you, for the user. How do we serve this guy the stuff that he's going to like so he sticks around for the longest? So algorithmic changes honestly just make our lives more interesting and force us to be better storytellers. We've got to really nail in on who are we targeting, how do we tell stories that are relevant to you, how do we increase your time viewed. So it's not always a negative thing. It's often responding to the way people are consuming content anyway. That helps.
Yeah, it's good. It helps a bit, but it's still like figuring out, like you said, you're figuring out. It is new. It's a new way
not a
of dealing
problem.
with it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have 5 minutes for the last few questions.
There's one
Maybe-
other
you wanna
problem
answer?
with social media and traditional media. When companies like national broadcasting companies publish their content on social media, they lose it. They have to pay for the editors. They have to pay for everything,
Yeah.
the research.
Yeah.
But Facebook is putting ads to it.
Yeah.
That's a real problem, and you give it away for free.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem for monetizing mobile journalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or traditional journalism, doesn't matter.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Are there any questions? There's a lady upstairs. Yep. Yeah.
Does it work? Yeah. Well, maybe more for the Dutch speakers. What do you think about traditional media shifting to Mojo? Like at AD, it's published a year ago, the AD Cube. So they have one app on your phone and it has 4 different sides of a cube. And it is general news, topics that you can pay for your own news. And you can also choose your city or your area where you're in. And I think they are making a great shift from traditional media, because they're a newspaper, to mobile journalism. What do you think about that?
Yeah, thank you. What do you think about that shift that
I've
the
been
AD
training
in the
the newspaper journalists in mobile journalism.
Yeah.
It was so nice to do, because those journalists they saw their newspaper declining.
what do you mean? The less
Less
people
and less
buy-
and less
yeah.
people are
Buying
reading
yeah.
the newspapers. So and they started with video, and they said, "Oh, we're publishing these videos, and they are so popular, and but they're awful to watch. So let's do something about it, because this is the future. We can."
But wait, are you
add
talking
video to
about
the
AD
article.
now? Are you talking about AD now, or are you
But
talking
just
about?
in general,
Yeah.
the persgroep is it in the Netherlands? Are they?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they started with the video and then they changed it to the cube to make it more
I
accessible.
don't
you're
know
right.
the cube. What you mean?
Yeah, it's called the AD Cube, but I mean the app. I don't know if you know it, because if you don't, then maybe you can have an opinion about it. But they have an app, and if you download it, the first page is just normal news, as if you would go to their site. But it's specialized, made for mobile journalism, so it's very easy to access instead of going to their Facebook page or going to their website.
Can you upload content?
Maybe I can show you just from far away.
How are you gonna do that?
Oh yeah, it's the same with the other press group.
And you can
airdrop
change
it.
the cube. So from
Yes, I've seen it.
yeah.
Yes,
Ah,
yes,
okay.
that's the same with the Stentor and all the other regional newspapers. It's from the same company. So
Yeah, it's a
But as a media consumer, do you like it?
Yeah, very much.
When
And what?
that's your answer.
But what do you
then
think
it's a
about
success.
like traditional media shifting to Mojo?
Oh, so that is more the,
They're different-
the
they're
general
different
question.
questions.
What do you think?
yeah.
Okay, that. No.
Yeah, I think you're
I
talking
didn't
about
know that. Ah, okay.
you,
Thank you.
as a consumer. watching the content on a mobile phone, how do we feel about that? Or what do you mean?
So there was a little bit confusion because there was a question about an app, and we didn't know what app, and now we
I
hear
know
that
it
in
now.
the app actually it's no Mojo because it's like an app, but how it's shot, it's not via mobile journalism. It's shot
it's
in a
just a
different way.
different format.
So maybe that's for some other time to talk about the app.
Well,
Now your question is what
The-
you
the
think
shift,
about
the shift from Mojo. This is just the way consumers see it on a mobile phone. But what newspapers do at the moment is they start to shoot videos like mobile journalists, and we discussed a lot because newspaper journalists, they want to deliver a good article. They want to write. That's what they were born for. So now they
What
have
do
to
you think of
video.
the shift? The question is, what do you think of the shift? We have one
Yeah, well,
minute
they
left.
can. How much? Oh,
Yeah.
they will. They have to because they won't survive without.
They
They
have to.
know, we talk about when you write your article for the newspaper. What do in video? You can do the whole interview in video. So you do the interview for an hour and a half. Some of them. And you go back. You say, what's the best quote I've heard? What affected me the most? And then that quote you record on your mobile phone, and then that's for the mobile journalistic part. And the other part is for the newspaper.
Yeah.
So you have to do both, the same as the broadcasters.
Okay, yeah. So you're like, it's not even a question about if I like it or not. It's you have to.
Yeah, you
have
to survive.
To. You have to.
do to survive.
Is that
Especially
how
the-
you see it as well?
Well, especially newspapers, I think, because people read newspapers less and less. So you need another way to engage your audience.
Okay, okay. Well,
Yes,
thank you.
they can add to each other. It's so beautiful
I'm
because
gonna say thank
yeah,
you.
no, well,
Thank you.
but you can
No,
go
we're
longer.
sorry,
in
sorry,
the
we're
article.
running out of time.
She was asking.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're running out of time because we have to go on.
Make a
Sorry.
Twitter thread about it.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the questions. I'm gonna ask you for a vote. We're gonna vote because are we gonna have a little break, 15-minute break, or are we gonna go through with the workshops? If you wanna have a 15-minute break, please raise your hands. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Well, I think we're gonna go through with the workshops. I'm so sorry. We're gonna go through with the workshops. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna go through with the workshops. If you were in the workshop in the other room, stay here now. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the panel talk. Yeah. I'm sorry.